Hello, hello, hello. Welcome. It's late. This is Quarrel, and we're going to do some painting. All right, so we're doing something a little different tonight. In honor of my daughter's birthday, we're going to do something from her. Not from her, but essentially a shiny book. So we are working on, as I look through, look at me all not prepared. We're working on this guy, these mephitic light drones, light haulers, excuse me. And be working on Light Lord Terminators specifically. See this guy? Let's see. Oh, you can see this guy. See how I was smiling there? And I just love this. It's so creepy. All right. So, a bit of lore first in the whole Warhammer universe. The Chosen of Nurgle. So this is Mother's favorite. It's one of those yucky, awesome things. See, I'll read it. I'll read the beginning so you can get an idea of who these guys are. Beware this seeping tome of horrors, for it is the definitive guide to the deathless horrors of Nurgle's chosen legion, the Death Guard. Okay, the Death Guard are the traitor legion most favored by Nurgle, utterly devoted to spreading the plague god's hideous diseases across real space. They are living plague vectors whose bloated bodies and rusted war engines boast grotesque resilience and devastating firepower. With a huge variety of characters, unit types, demonic war engines at their disposal, the Death Guard offer any person who wants to spend some money, I guess, an exciting range of options to explore. So it starts out with, lore, and then tells you to go buy more stuff. So since I'm not telling you to go buy more stuff, let's see. Okay, so picture this in your mind. The first warning of a Death Guard assault is a buzzing drone that grows louder by the second, rising to a skin-crawling thrum and then a hurricane roar. It is the sound of a billion plague flies swarming across the rank desolation of no man's land. Amidst this terrifying din can be heard the doleful tolling of bells, the rumble of powerful engines, and the mindless lamentations of the cursed. A carrion wind rises, bringing with it the sickening stench of decay, a spore-thick gale of corpse gas that swathes the enemy in diseased fumes. Then come the Death Guard, striding through the billowing foulness. Their eye lenses glow with a sickly light, and their blades drip with noxious venoms. Choking fumes spill from the corroded power packs and flesh-fueled boilers, further polluting the poisonous air. Some give vent to glottal battle cries or groan out praise to Grandfather Nurgle. Some laugh with insane glee, the sound wet and retching through vox grills clogged with nameless matter. Most simply advance, silent, but for their thudding footfalls and the bubbling wheeze of their respirators. Man, that's awesome. So, in the grim darkness of the distant future, there are all sorts of nasty things. There's 4 chaos gods, and one of them is Nurgle, who represents stagnation, but also the cycle of life, death, and rebirth. So, specifically focus on plague and disease as a method of, I guess, death, as well as rebirth. Even if that rebirth happens to be bacteria or viruses, which, if you're looking at numbers, not a bad idea. So, all right, what am I working on today? Not these guys. This at these guys. So I've got some Blight Lord Terminators, and let's read the first paragraph. Blight Lord Terminators are relentless and unstoppable, elite Death Guard warriors bound forever to mutated suits of cataphracti armor. They stalk forward with guns blazing, mercilessly mowing down rank after rank of the enemy. Combi weapons, plague spewers, and blight launchers add to the fusillade, reducing infantry and vehicles to slop. At the last, the Terminators break into a lumbering charge, hefting huge weapons with which to hack and bludgeon the enemy. Flails of corruption entangle weapons and limbs in sizzling, corrosive barbs. Bubotic axes and bale swords tear ragged wounds into which 1,000 poxes seep. By the time the Blight Lord Terminators stomp on in search of new victims, nothing remains of their enemies but maggot-ridden corpses. So, yeah, given that little bit of tastiness, show you what I'm doing here. This was I was kind of validating a method that I started out with Mortarion, which is essentially prime it black, then use, since I wasn't able to find the air version of the Death Guard green color, I started using the Strachan green, which is actually a brighter color, but very similar to Death Guard green. And what you're able to do, can't really get much closer. I turned off autofocus. It's just not needed. It focuses just fine right here. My experience. Let's get this right. That's right in the center. That. Okay. And this. Okay, that's a pretty good work area. So this guy has chainmail that I'm going to paint like a gunmetal color and add some rust stuff to it, I think. Then we have nails stuck in here that will need to be painted differently. But in general, the power armor that's still intact, I'm able to paint, the Cataphracti Terminator armor. I'm able to paint the green color to start. And on the back, I mean, it's really nasty here. It's like gobbets of flesh and stringy organs or whatever are popping out of the seams, and some like battlefield repairs have been made to like reconnect the back part and the front with some straps. I have to paint that a different color, and then of course I'm going to need to paint this sort of a pale fleshy color with shading of red and purple and maybe a little green. This is a chain axe here, and then this is a plague spewer. And I like how it has this, let's use a little more green. I like how it has this handle here. It's like opening a really big, like a fire hose or something, just full of muck, I guess, stored in this tank, which I think should be like colored a bronze and have like a sort of a patina, like a greenish, like corroded patina on it, especially in that dimple. So it looked like a keg that's been battered. And I certainly know what kegs look like. So I used to brew beer. So we've got like a little tentacle hanging out here. But again, this is the guy with those teeth. So we want to make those teeth really shine. So that I think might be bright white at the end there. So anyway, that's kind of the general green color. Now, the other thing, I left this as completely black so I could show you the painting of the green. This guy has the flails that were being described in that second paragraph there. He's got, looks like a bunch of tubes coming out of him, or wires / tubes. You know, this whole like organic growth thing kind of combines the two. And it's got like drippy mess hanging off of it. There's some more drippy mess. Some like plague sensor type stuff going on here. And then more fleshy outgrowths through the shoulder plate. And Nurgle symbols. And like a little smokestack. I love it. It's extremely detailed. Oh, and here's the smoke coming off the plague sensors, which I like to paint a bronze. And then this stuff is, I guess, a greenish, bluish, nasty smoke. And then this guy, I don't know if we'll get to him tonight, but he is a mephitic blight hauler. And I guess we'll get to him quickly. What does a mephitic blight hauler do? All right. All right. Powering into battle on a trio of articulated track units, the mephitic blight hauler is a light demon engine. Of course, how light is a demon engine? I mean, it's powered by demons. But that provides the Death Guard with heavy firepower wherever it's needed, resembling a bloat drone that has been stripped of its turbines. This strange machine has heavy weapons mounted on its carapace, typically a combination of multi-melta, which is basically a microwave gun, concentrated microwave gun that rapidly heats things up, and a missile launcher for mid to close range tank hunting. At the front of the demon engine's hull, a single eyelid stares at the enemy with feral hunger, while below it a fang-filled maw gnashes and drools. Should the enemy get too close, the mephitic blight hauler falls upon them like a ravenous wolf, biting and devouring, or sprays diseased bile over them from the rotted nozzle that juts between its fangs. Okay. Pretty. So, get the airbrush going. So, yes, I'll talk more about the history of the Chaos Legions at some point. At least the lore of the Chaos Legions. Not a lore, just the lore. And at some point in the future. Because it's hard to get into, but suffice to say, I don't think, outside of just straight up zombies, I don't think any other sci-fi universe has formerly elite warriors that have been corrupted and basically spread plague. I can't think of one. But if you can think of one, feel free to put it in the comments. I'd love to know. Just reading the news today that another strain of polio has apparently gone extinct. That would be great. More diseases we kill now, the fewer of them can be used in the distant future. So, shake it up. So, in the very near future, the format of these videos is going to change a bit. I'm going to try to find some free to use music, sci-fi themed music. Ew. Yeah, trying to mix in a little thinner. Yes, I am thinning paint Got some paint on me. This is what happens when I do this late at night. Get a little careless. Long day today. Kind of looks like plague stuff right there. All bubbly. Here, I'll even play it near the microphone so you can hear the awesomeness. Ah, okay. Let's start with our friend. Now, I'm a big fan of Bob Ross, the late Bob Ross. I'm gonna just do some painting of my happy little warrior here. What kind of stories he has to tell. What horrors he witnessed. What kind of horrors has he seen? Do you think he still remembers when he was human? Before he followed one of the dark gods? Or was he picked from the stock that lives on their Death Guard ships? Never having seen a sun or a planet, knowing only the rotting filth of their ships. The colony does like to paint some of these. She also likes my paint jobs. Okay, this is a new technique for me. Started this with Mortarion, he turned out well. And these suits of armor for the Death Guard are, you can kind of tell that the organic bodies within have kind of grown into it and in some cases burst out of it. Sometimes it's hard to get the back. A lot of people do this kind of painting before it's assembled. And I do that sometimes, but these are small models. Not that small. They're actually significantly bigger than humans in this scale. Oh, cool thing about Terminator armor is they have the ability to teleport. They use a teleportation chamber, so they're kind of like rapid strike forces. Yeah. There are also holy numbers according to Nurgle, and those numbers are 3, 7. The other thing about the Death Guard and Nurgle in general is fans of Nurgle, at least in the game universe and the lore universe. That's pretty good. Kind of liking that green. Looks good. And this guy. This guy's a lot more green area, so you'll be able to see it a little better. You don't need to airbrush this stuff on. I mean, think about it. Death Guard's not supposed to look clean and fresh. And by no means will these guys look clean and fresh by the time I'm done with them. But I think these guys are even a little more forgiving than average in terms of painting with brush and still making them look good. But I don't know, especially when the base color is black, I feel like it's miraculous watching the paint go on. You don't see that especially with Thousand Suns. And painting on the gold is like beautiful. Really magical experience. It's like watching an inner light just appear for everyone to see. Really like this green color. Again, you're not going to be perfectly exact. I'm not. Hearing a bit of sputtering, so check and make sure I clean this appropriately. And I'm just going to drop things. Oh, there we go. Don't drop your little bits. Bad idea. So yes, as if you watch the interview with my daughter, I probably already gave away her name a little bit. I have to edit that out in the future. But yeah, my daughter has loved the Death Guard since she saw them. I don't know if it's because she was jealous of her brother or me or something, but she's grown attached to them. I think she shows genuine like for the aesthetic of these yucky disease things. That delights me. funny. Same time, she loves cute things like My Little Pony, and just watched that movie tonight, actually. Um, yeah, she loves cute things as well. She's capable of liking both things. One of the things about working with these models is how many spikes they have. You hurt yourself. Working with this kind of thing reminds me, oh, I need to go get my flu shot tomorrow. That's right, folks. If you hit Nurgle, don't forget your flu shot. Again, I'm not being exact. I just want to be thorough. The base coat, sketching things in. Yeah, just the look of this. It's got these like metal straps keeping like the fleshy part in, and it's not all flesh. There's like looks like shocks and robotic arms and stuff sticking out of it, and tubes and vents. Um, Again, I just think this idea is not like a typical sci-fi trope. It's just additive, kind of original. And the Nurgle models for the fantasy range are pretty cool looking too. Oh. All right, done here. Yeah, it looks pretty good. I wish I could name them. Again, show your viewership and let me know what you would name this guy. Fluffy, maybe? All right. I think I'll just dump the rest of the stuff back in. I think we're done with this color. We'll get started with a different color. And the next color I almost always use when Death Guard is on the line is a bronze color. Turn off the airbrush. All right. Just gonna put in some water. So I don't want it to harden and dry off in the airbrush. And I don't want to run away and clean it right now. All right. There's a brush. There's a brush. There's another brush. It's a palette. It is not a wet palette. I know. Just looking through my paint. I have some drawers of paint. I used to hold my paint. Color. Come on. There. Oh, yep. Balthazar Gold. This is my friend. I don't have to get more. No, still very good. Let's just use this. Slightly bigger ones. Consider the layer. Large base, larger dry. This red one I don't like. Saul's brush. That's Saul's brush. Yeah. Okay. Now I'll use this one. Currently a good all-purpose go-to brush. Army Painter, Wargamer Regiment. I think I already talked about that the other day. Let's see. Nice aged bronzy look. Let's see if I have something else here. If it doesn't take too long to find. It's an additive I like to use. If I don't have it, it's not a huge deal. Just have to prepare longer tomorrow. Nope, that's not it. Nope. There it is, glaze medium. I just like putting a drop in it. It does thin it out. It slows the drying process a little. Doesn't significantly change the color. I always presume that these are small polymers like polyethylene glycol or something, some PEG. So I always guess some of it is. There's a dry bit in there. Oh, okay, took it out. Okay, right, nearly in the center here, and got a lot of it in there now. So what? This is the most interesting guy to me right now because I don't know, he's just awesome. This is the guy. Oh, but this guy has chainmail. I don't know. I just love this flail. I just want to paint the flail. Okay. So right now I'm just going to paint all the middle bits this way. And the other thing that starts happening is you discover, oh, this will go really fast or whatever. And you go and you're like, there's tiny details everywhere. You don't want to rush it, cover over the details. But at the same time, you're playing a game. You need 5 of these done. You can't just run away with one. A little thicker than that. Dry it. Pretty good. All right. The other thing is, after your first coat is done, it's tempting to go back and just immediately fix it, but it's better to just let it dry. When you're painting like this, just let it dry. And then come back to it. Otherwise, you start streaking it around and stuff, which is not what you want. Not right now, at least. Again, I think Bob Ross was the guy who talked about, mistakes and accepting them and letting it be part of your art. And I'm cool with that. I think it's a great idea. So, got some like metal binding around here. Let's see how I painted this in Martarian. Just kind of want, okay. So that's just all bronze, even the binder, the metal binding around it. I'll stick with that. So yeah, happy little mistakes. My happy little plague. Terminator. 10,000-year-old armor. Dedicated to destroying mankind. You might be like, well, why are you painting it all the same? You're not going to be able to pick out the detail. Contraire. Nope, you'll be able to add some shade to it. The shade will go in all the recesses. Look like a completely different thing and very 3D. So I like to picture this guy just waving this around as he just kind of lumbers forward, maybe singing some kind of dirge. I don't know, something very satisfying about painting a soldier that wants to spread disease when in real life I'm involved in helping cure it or treat it. Guess you want to have this idea that you can just kind of not making an icon or graven image or anything. At least that's not the intent. But almost like a voodoo doll, I guess. So you take your enemy and you can kind of personify it and make it something you can do something to, as opposed to this infinite size problem. Hmm. So I think I'll paint that a steel color. That guy. Yeah, there can be slight differences between different models. I'm not entering this in competitions or anything. It's really about satisfying me and my daughter. And so that experience she was talking about when she was at the hospital, yeah, I had some of, not these guys, but some smaller guys that I was painting. It's 2 years ago now. It's earlier on. Kind of solidified my love of the Death Guard because, I was able to do something in my when my daughter was recovering in the hospital. Before she was recovering, all the doctors coming in with masks. They didn't know exactly what disease it was, so they were treating it as a contagious thing. I feel like I need to paint these because it's so apt and it can kind of channel my thinking and worry. Can't really reach it. It's really annoying. If I can't reach it, can anyone see it? Okay, I can reach it now. Yeah, that's one of the cool shortcuts about when you're painting a model that's already assembled. If you physically can't see it, then other people probably can't in tabletop unless they're judging you or trying to find fault or something. But they really have to look. Okay, I think you can already see that's pretty cool. I'm feeling how cool that is. Now, the other cool thing about the bronze is the highlights on the armor. So this thing is too wet. It's going on too thin. That's better. So yes, the highlights of the armor. Skies. Okay, so specific highlights. See where this kind of sticks out. I think this can be metal. Too wet again. I just like a wet palette, you just use a part of the palette that's not being used yet to kind of move the paint around on the brush, as well as see what kind of you can mix here. You can kind of see what consistency you have. See, the other thing is this guy has like a strip of metal kind of attached to his boot. Crunch on Imperial butt, I guess. So yes, what do these guys have against the Imperium of Man? Well, they believe that the Emperor of Mankind was going to betray them and destroy them at the end of the Great Crusade. And they carry this grudge for thousands of years. They put in their loyalty to the Chaos Gods, who the Emperor of Mankind was against and trying to destroy, or at least ignore to death. Because the idea is the entities in the warp are powered by human emotion or other sentient creature emotion. It's the realm of souls, and any kind of strong emotion can kind of gain existence in the warp. Coincidentally, the warp is how spaceships travel, so it's literally tearing a hole in another universe where emotion rules. It's kind of dark, grim dark. So yeah, imagine Star Trek. The Enterprise is going to warp speed, and it literally tears a hole in the fabric of space and time. Um, and if it didn't have a protective shield, the ship could, the laws of physics wouldn't work, and the ship could literally turn itself inside out. And yes, if you're asking, hey, did that actually happen in the Warhammer universe? The answer is yes. Yes, if the shields are not working, the ship can literally turn itself inside out. And it hurts people because people also turn inside out. It's pretty painful. Funny part about these guys, so during the Great Crusade, when they were loyal and they fought for the Emperor, their Primarch Mortarion, and their people were known for being indomitable. They grew up on a planet covered in plague, not plague, but poison, and they prided themselves on their ability to survive environments even other space marines couldn't survive in. They could do anything. And so they were given the most awful jobs. And they got resentful of the most awful jobs, even though, they prided themselves on being able to do it. And the Primarch always had a grudge on his shoulder for the Emperor, too. Won't give that away at the moment. There's some books about that. I'm going to get an Amazon affiliate link, and I'm going to start linking all the books as I start talking about them. But anyway, this legion, they rebelled against the Emperor, and then right before they were going to go into the warp on their final journey to go directly to Earth to kill the Emperor, take part in that battle at least, they Nurgle played a joke on them, and everybody got sick, like deadly sick, and they would not die. Could not be killed. They just suffered in agony. And there was nothing anyone could do to stop it. They were just in absolute agony, plague ridden, laid low. Basically, everything they prided themselves about being resistant to, suddenly they were vulnerable, and there was no way for them to stop it. And that was one of the ways that Nurgle used to persuade Mortarion to swear fealty to him. One of a few. And so he gave himself over to serving Nurgle, And then instead of being harmed by plagues, the Death Guard, then they no longer felt pain by the plague. The plagues didn't go away. It transformed them into these sort of monstrous looking creatures, but like their regenerative abilities increased a huge amount as they basically become walking cancers that just can regrow themselves, totally ignore things, ignore getting shot. Doesn't hurt. So, I mean, that's cool. If you want to, if all you can think about is vengeance. All right, so this container paint. How long this is could be my longest yet. I will stop at midnight. Don't give them water after midnight. When I was a kid and I saw gremlins, I was confused about, well, when could you start giving them water? I needed an end time. You know, you're told don't feed them after midnight or don't give them water or whatever after midnight. I'm like, okay, but when can you? Like, when does that restriction end? I keep moving off the table. There you go. So you see how he's getting all fancy? Yes, fancy. Kind of reminds me of Bioshock and the old diving bells, big suits. Kind of the vibe I'm getting specifically for these details. I think this is going to be steel color. Um, no. See, I got a little on the eye there. Too thin. It's also covered in rivets. Futuristic space armor covered in rivets. I think my mom would be happy. Rivets are everything. Rivets for the god of rivets. Admittedly, that's more of that kind of classic heavy diving outfit aesthetic. These are kind of like the opposite of clean suits. What ISO level do they support? ISO -5. What? Yeah, it goes negative. Oh yeah, look. We have an old school gauge here. And I'm gonna have to paint that gauge red, like with a sort of white background there. I definitely have to do that with some tiny detail brush. And then we have like a valve with a handle, and oh, it's beautiful. Yeah, it's like pressure doors on a submarine or a bulkhead in a. Oh, it's so beautiful. I'm enjoying this more now that I'm actually talking about it with other people. I think that's funny too. The imagination that was needed for this. It's funny though. These particular models are criticized for their cartoonishness, that they're not grim enough or dark enough. I would argue that of all of the newer ones, I mean, I'm not going to disagree, but we are talking fantasy, and we're talking about the warp, which is essentially a realm of ideas. And I feel like the idea of these things comes from people like dying on shipwrecks, or like on plague ships or something. Oh, the other cool thing about the warp, time doesn't matter. I mean, it sort of matters, but it doesn't. It's an interesting concept. That basically you can do things in the warp, and normally ships travel just fine through them, but sometimes they'll show up like in the distant past or the distant future, but mostly just right on time, which is hilarious. Oh, in our warp commute today, we've noticed a backup of negative 200 years. So the other cool thing about the warp is it's very much like Dune. So it's sort of folding space and yet not, but it does require special humans known as navigators. And these people literally, I kid you not, have third eyes that they need to cover up because basically you can see into the warp through them. They can make people go insane. So there you go. So here, got Lovecraftian horror because of the whole insanity thing. And then you have Dune because you need navigators to go into the warp. Uh, then you have well, I think that's enough for now. And then of course there's this whole plague thing. I'm just doing terribly right now. Just kind of shaky. All right. Almost done for tonight. Just trying to get that a little closer to me. It's comfortable putting it right in front of my eyes. See, it's again not perfect, but again, I'm painting this a different color that's much whiter. You're not going to see the fact that I painted a little too much bronze. But I mean, at this point, you're starting to get ready for the tabletop. You've got three basic colors. You've got black, bronze, and green. So you're starting to look pretty good. And The classic example of tabletop standard is indeed 3 colors. This is what I have been told. And yet the place I go when I can go, which isn't often, a lot of people just run great unpainted armies or partially painted armies. Ugh. All right. Just kind of doing some second coats before I call the bronze done for now. Yeah, for my next stream, I'm going to try to get some music. Let me know if people want to see my actual face, because I could have that going at the same time. I don't mind. Catch my funny looks as I try hard to concentrate. Oop. So many rivets. Oh, there's another gauge. Yay! I wonder what the gauge is measuring. Presumably atmosphere, but it could be like power levels or what have you. No, I don't mean like anime Dragon Ball type power levels over 9,000. That's not what I mean. Okay. Pretty happy with how that looks tonight. He's just gonna come by. You can just picture this guy like someone's really bothering you. Really want to scare somebody, so maybe you hire this guy for Halloween or some kind of prank. Puts on this crazy looking suit of armor. Has this flail with some reeking, stinking smoke coming out of it. He just swings it around like the gladiators fight, just swinging that weapon around right in the movie Gladiator. The first time that the character Maximus goes out into the arena, and the guy that he's chained to is pissing himself. Yeah, and they're just swinging, and you see the shadow just play over them. Yeah, I'm picturing this guy out there, and this one's gonna win because his rules are actually pretty ruthless. It's a pretty strong weapon he's got there. Anyway, with that, I'm gonna call it an evening, and hopefully you won't be infected by any diseases overnight. And if you are already infected with something, I hope you overcome it. Don't forget to vaccinate so these guys don't come visit you. Have a wonderful evening.